So this is sort of like if Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street was like really fat, had male pattern baldness when he was like in his 20s, and was a literal redditor. Like said things like, "This is so wholesome, Chiango."
Big Chungus.
Yeah, I was trying to say Chungus and then Keanu, but I combined to Chiano.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking like Gordon Gekko, but of Twitter.
Right. Yeah. Like if he like tweeted like greed is the most important thing ever, and like all those socialist gun girls were like, "What? Shut up, incel!" And he like killed himself or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, it's if you're all not aware, we are talking about the meteoric rise of the one and only GameStop.
And like, yeah, it's GameStop that this happened to, and they are like a victim of circumstance, if anything, or I guess victim's the wrong word.
Yeah, there's no bigger meaning to this. There's no like, why did they choose GameStop? It's for a bunch of very specific reasons that I think it's definitely worth us getting into.
Yeah, sure. So let's provide context for the people at home. Who messed with GameStop's stonks?
That's right. So if you're not already aware, Wall Street was kind of shaken up recently, and by recently I mean like literally the last 2 days, by the company GameStop was subject to a massive amount of attention when their stock price rose hundreds of percents. I mean, it went from around $40 a share a week ago to now it's hovering around $3.20, but it maxed out around like $3.70.
How?
Earlier today. How? Well, that's a good question, Sam.
All right. Let me make it clear. I don't really understand or care about the stock market. I do know some things. I do know that playing the stock market, being a hedge fund manager, it's no different from going to Las Vegas or Atlantic City.
Sam, don't sell yourself short.
That's really funny. But being a hedge fund manager, is no different from going to Atlantic City or Las Vegas. It's like just as ridiculous, like in terms of, it's legalized gambling.
Yeah, but as we get into this, especially the GameStop, there's a lot going on here. So I'm your senior financial correspondent. I'm here to talk about what happened. So I think we need to bring this back to like the beginning of the story, like before GameStop was a thing. What is r/Wall Street Bets? In your own words, what do you think that is?
As a senior online Reddit correspondent, I can say that r/Wall Street Bets is like it's, I guess, for like, people always associate Reddit with like the annoying like r/ dank memes like Elon Musk is my god. This is like the older brother of people that are like that, and they're sort of like
yeah, these are the cool Redditors.
Yeah, they're like you're a fucking loser to the wholesome dank memes Chungus 100, we love you 3000 Redditors. So they are, in the grand scale of things, like higher up on the totem pole of people deserving respect. But that's a very low bar, because they are, a lot of them seem to be sociopaths from what I've gathered.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is making money hand over fist with no regard for the consequences or really a in-depth understanding of what you're actually doing.
Yeah, isn't it like, it's like a cult, actually. Like, they like bully and pressure each other into blowing their life savings on gambling. Like I said, like playing the stock market. It's called Wall Street Bets, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, exactly. And we made like the Wolf of Wall Street reference earlier, but I think that actually, when it comes down to it, I think the Wolf of Wall Street is probably the single most important cultural point that led us to this, like where we are now. The r/Wall Street bets would not exist if you didn't have like all the people that watched Wolf of Wall Street and said, "Oh, Jordan Belfort is cool, actually."
Yeah, that was a phenomenon. You were in high school. Like the lacrosse captain would be like, "Oh," he would change his Twitter handle to the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, and you thought it was nothing to pay any mind to, you know. But before this, we had Instagram accounts like called like Hustler Mindset.
Yeah.
That would be like, say shit like, if I had to choose between a $2,000 stimulus check or a book that told me how to make $2,000, I'd take the book.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the classic, you open up the book and it says, "Should take the stimulus." But, no, so this was like always kind of a thing in the background and they were doing dumb things. But like where this really becomes important is when we start looking at Robinhood, the app Robinhood. And I'm a user of Robinhood. I've invested in the past. I had a brief stint where I invested in Pfizer and I made a nice little chunk of change off of that one.
He won't disclose his finances, but I tried getting into Robinhood, but my credit union isn't like, I couldn't link up my checking account to Robinhood. It just goes to show that credit unions are banks for poor people.
Yeah, it's
very embarrassing.
Honestly, it opened my eyes to how the other half lives. But no, so Robinhood is where this sort of starts, and the app's been around however many years, sort of doing its thing. It goes through third-party financial services to buy and sell stocks. It's, in a lot of ways, Robinhood doesn't offer any features other than connecting buyers and sellers through other like stock exchanges and whatnot. But
to put it simply, Robinhood is like, if you're like not a stock guy who wants to play the market a little bit, that's where you're going.
Yeah, you can go on, you can buy individual stocks, you can buy portions of stocks now. It's just you put the money in there. It's very incredibly straightforward, very intuitive system. A monkey could do it. A monkey could use Robinhood. And there's more advanced features, and we'll start talking about those as we get further into it. But Robinhood really exploded with the beginning of the pandemic. Because especially with the first round of stimulus and like businesses closing down, a lot of people were at home and they had substantial savings and not really much to do with it because you weren't going out on like vacations or anything, or you weren't buying much of anything. And what ended up happening is people started investing in Robinhood and they saw their user base like explode. And this is where we start to see like the beginning of this weird phenomena of Robinhood users basically affecting the market. And of course, over the last couple of years, we've seen Tesla starting to spike, and that's very much because of this very user-friendly and easy sort of app that people like saw Elon Musk tweeting, and they would go in and buy Tesla stocks, and they would start pumping Tesla stocks.
Didn't he tweet that he was going to go public with Tesla and like...
Yeah, he tweeted
that's
that
illegal.
Yeah, so with Elon Musk, this was about a year ago, or not a year ago, it was, I think maybe a year and a half ago. He tweeted that he wanted to take Tesla public at $420 a share, and that wasn't necessarily the problem. But then he tweeted something that he was talking with some Saudis, I think it was, or some people in the UAE, and famously, this is the tweet that came up in the deposition. He said specifically, and I quote, "Funding secured." That is fraud. That is market manipulation. Yeah, the SEC kicked down his door, and they had to have a word with him.
Yeah, he faced no consequences for it, obviously.
Yeah, he faced no major consequences.
Became a father.
Of course, at that point, he was trying to go, or take Tesla private at $420 a share. Right now, it's close to $900, I think. So ever since then, it's just been compounding and going off. And this isn't the last time we're going to be mentioning Elon Musk, I should say. But that was one of the few weird phenomena that started to appear. Another interesting one is the company Hertz. You know them. It's the car rental company. They went bankrupt over the summer. But a weird thing that happened is after they announced their bankruptcy, their stock price started going up. Like, they had tanked and they were pretty low. They were almost a penny stock. but they just started going up. Turns out, like, bored people just kind of buying Hertz stock. And, oh, that's a company I know. It's really low. I'll buy it. And so they're, like, rearranging the assets. For all they know, they're going to liquidate, like, the stocks and everyone's going to lose all their money. But it starts going up 200, 300, 400%. And people are making serious money off of this bankrupt company. And I guess now it's sort of back to normal. But we start seeing these sort of, like, inverse, like, sort of defying market principles and these trends. And that brings us to the boom of the r/Wallstreet bets and their sort of manipulation, I should say, of different Robinhood features. And so this is going to be kind of jargon heavy, and I might have to get into a lot of definitions. So feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Come on.
Yeah.
We pay you enough where you can think on your feet and skip the boring nerd parts.
Yeah, I'll try my best. But so yeah, a lot of Robinhood is day traders. It's a very small transaction. One of the features that you can do is leveraging. So the idea with leveraging is you are spending capital you do not have. You are essentially lending money from Robinhood. And I think their feature is you can do like a 2-to-1 leverage. So you put in $500, Robinhood puts in $500. You can invest the $1,000. You just have to make sure you pay them back the $500 at the end. One of the issues with the app at one point let you essentially have infinite leverage. So there were people doing 100-to-1 leverage, 1,000-to-1 leverage, 1,000,000-to-1. They were giving people basically free money as loans. And there were people like making fortunes overnight. Now the thing with leverage, though, is when you lose money, you also have to pay back the losses in full. So you had people making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. You also had people losing that money. Lots
people
of
that
money.
Didn't have it.
They did not have that money.
Yeah. People that did not fucking have $100 million were losing $100 million.
Exactly, and that was one of the big things that was early on Wallstreet bets. Is like, hey, check this out. I can scam $100,000 out of Robinhood. You just click this and do this. And so they ended up fixing that, and they started trying to fix some other things. Robinhood's had a couple more problems since then, but that was the first time people started to acknowledge Wallstreet bets as like a force in the economy.
Just like a little bunch of like little psychopaths who like well, I don't know, like they were mostly hurting themselves, right? Were they like manipulating the market in a way that screws over like working people's 401ks and stuff like that? Were they just like doing epic pranks like that if it backfires, it only backfires on them?
It's really hard to say because at that point the market was already incredibly volatile. So a lot of like 401ks and whatnot are different indexes or indices, I should say, or portfolios that contain a lot of different stocks. So it is hard to say if that actually damaged them or if it was the fact that we were in a pandemic and the material condition and material outlook was miserable was actually hurting people's 401ks. But, yeah, so that was going on and off over the summer, and this started to gain traction in r/Wallstreet bets. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a pump and dump scheme is, but a lot of that started to happen, where you basically go out and say, like, hey, this stock looks good. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. People will believe you. Everyone buys the stock. The price goes up. You sell. You make money.
Yeah.
And so they start doing this. This becomes like a regular thing. r/Wallstreet bets is basically running a continuous pump and dump scheme of, I think there's like 2 million followers on it right now.
Oh yeah, I would imagine it's become very popular tonight.
Yeah, and yeah, so that starts to bring us to the GameStop era. And so GameStop specifically is one of like a series of companies that through the pandemic has seemed like they've reached their natural conclusion. Like, there is no way forward for GameStop. I mean,
it's like the Blockbuster of video games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a brick and mortar store where you buy like video game on the discs.
Yeah, and you know, and lots of reasons why they were doomed. But the COVID was sort of like the last nail in the coffin for them.
Yeah,
it's over for GameStop.
And they weren't necessarily bankrupt, but they were definitely on their way out. I think they were closing locations, and so a lot of I hesitate to say savvy, but
A lot of people, a lot of psychotic people.
Well, no, I was thinking more in terms of the different like capital groups and the hedge funds.
Oh, all right. I thought you were talking about the Redditors.
Oh no, they saw GameStop was on their way out, so they decided to short sell GameStop. And so, again, with the terminology, for all of you that don't know how short selling works, what it basically is you put up however much money, like say a share is worth $500 now, you take it out as like a loan. So then you have like the $500 and you say, okay, in 2 weeks I will buy this stock back. And if at that time the stock is worth $300 instead of $500, you basically pocket the $200 and pay the $300 back. And so that's how short selling works. It's a long and rich history of short selling in America. People made millions, billions of dollars off doing it during the financial crash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The other thing with short selling, though, much like leveraging, is in paying it back, you have assumed quite a bit of risk. Now, when you buy a stock normally, it can go down. Like you put $500 into a stock, it goes down to $200. You lost $300. But you could only lose like the $500. It can go down to zero. You lose all the money you put in. But that's not the case with short selling. If you say invest in the stock that's worth $500 right now, and you're short selling it in 2 weeks, but by the time you short sell it, that stock is worth $2,000, you now have to pay the $1,500 additional dollars from that. The money you can lose on short selling is infinite. And so a lot of these hedge funds start short selling GameStop. They start short selling BlackBerry, AMC Theaters. These are all companies that are on their way out. There is no way around it. That should be a safe market bet.
Yes, and we will discuss that later. How I'll get into that later. The contradiction there.
Yeah, and so these companies are sort of on their way out. There's no way they're going to be coming back. But people start to realize that these companies are overshorted, and that people are betting on them to fail at some point soon. So someone gets the bright idea, like, hey, what if we start to boost these stocks? Like, what if we just all buy GameStop, and then when they short sell, the price will go even higher because they're buying more GameStop. And so they start to do that, and they start putting money into GameStop, and now you have it that the price has gone up 700% in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and like just completely like, is this like, would you say, I think an easy way to put this is for like people who are lost. If you've seen the movie The Big Short, Steve Carell comes up with the. I haven't seen the movie. I know this is the plot, but Steve Carell plays a Wall Street guy or whatever who sees that the housing bubble is going to burst before everybody else does. Yeah, so he starts betting against it.
Christian Bale does that.
Well, whatever. These guys, there was like a team of guys who see that the housing market the housing bubble is gonna burst, so they start betting against it. Yep. And they made millions, billions of dollars. Yep. So is it sort of like the opposite of that? Because they were buying the stock, sort of betting for it to counter. You basically have Redditors versus hedge fund managers. Yeah. Hedge fund managers are betting for GameStop to fail. Redditors start buying the stock in GameStop, making the price go up 700%, 800%. And that really screws over the hedge fund managers. And as we made it clear before, hedge fund managers are people who literally just gamble in the stock market. That's all they do. They contribute nothing to society. It's gambling.
Yeah, and here's the trick with the hedge fund managers that made it such... Again, I have a hard time calling them geniuses, but like the Redditors had it right with this one, is the minute they start seeing these massive losses, they get scared and they try and close their shorts. They try and sell the shorts. What does that do? It juices the price even more. And so, if you've been following the news, you may have heard the name Melvin Capital.
Yeah.
This is a $13 billion hedge fund that went insolvent overnight. They have no more money. They're done.
They killed Melvin.
Yeah. Redditors literally killed a hedge fund with $13 billion in assets overnight. And others, too. This is something that's coming out more and more. A lot of big hedge funds are really hurting because the Redditors decided to defy their shorts.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of people are seeing this as sort of like an emerging class conflict. You think that's a fair assessment?
I don't know if that's a fair assessment because what we're basically seeing isn't a class conflict. It's the large capital owners against the smaller capital owners that...
Yeah, but a conflict between the bourgeois and the petite bourgeois is still a conflict.
I guess that is true, but it's not necessarily or it's not between classes. It's an interclass.
Yeah,
conflict.
interclass conflict.
Yeah. And so that brings us to today. Over the course of the day, I got dozens of notifications on my phone from the Wall Street Journal, from Bloomberg, trying to explain what the hell was going on with Reddit, why Reddit was messing with everything. Of course, Elon Musk was there again, tweeting a link to r/Wall Street Bets with the caption "Gamestonks."
Yeah, so he got behind it. He was encouraging it.
Yes, he did another SEC violation.
Oh, did he really?
Yes, they're saying that in that tweet he basically boosted a message that would constitute market violation or market.
So did Redditors violate? Did they break the law?
That is the question at this point. Now, my financial and legal regulation is not quite up to date. I haven't read the current case law on any of this.
Right, right. So yes, so the legality of what the Redditors did comes into question. But the biggest thing that all right, we could admit that, as people who don't necessarily like understand this, understand that the knowledge has been kept from you, and that there's a lot of stuff like where like, do you really like need to understand this? Because like the Redditors did what people do with what hedge fund managers do every single day, right?
Yeah.
So we're clear on that. So nobody's ever gone to prison to this before.
People have gone to prison before for market manipulation, but not quite in this way. Because the thing that makes the Reddit posts weird is it's not like someone going out and saying like, hey, we all should invest in this to like drive them back. It's literally if someone was like on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange yelling like, buy, 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 like that sort of thing. And they're not like forcing people to do it. They're not... It's weird because of the way the platform has been so democratized. And in a way, this is like the democratization of the stock market as people gain access to these sort of tools and these instruments to like engage in financial markets, in speculation. But it's difficult to say what constitutes manipulation because I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
Yeah, that's no. Yeah, nobody. But the bottom, like, if the Redditors, like, to be clear, Reddit is a social media platform. If nobody knows that,
it's like a C tier social media platform.
If the Reddit people go to jail for it, though, they'd be going to jail for something that hedge fund managers do every day, and you can't help but like think like. Again, like, we're assuming that the Reddit people are not like your Elon Musks. They're not necessarily like oppressed working class, down on luck wage slaves, but they're certainly not owners of the means of production.
Well, it's like we were speaking with someone earlier, and he said his buddy in the army, him and all of his friends tossed their Robinhood money into GameStop, and they came out with like $5,000-$6,000.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
These aren't like the owners of capital. These are people with like some money lying around that think, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. They're people who might have a little bit in their savings. They probably earn a good wage. But what they did today and yesterday is that they basically got onto a platform and said, I want to participate in this economy that has been set up, that I've had no say in. I want to participate in it in a way that is not just me selling my labor for a wage.
Mm-hmm.
And they have received more backlash and attacks than people like Martin Skrelke, who raised the price of his life-saving drug to up to 2,000%, or Bernie Madoff, who did that Ponzi scheme or whatever, and ripped off all his investors. And it is true that Bernie Madoff went to prison, but the Redditors, like I said, they got together and they made a decision. They were like, I want to participate in this market. That's not just me selling my labor for a wage. And there's been massive negative response to that. They're being, compared to Nazis right now on Twitter, which I know Twitter isn't real life and you should divorce yourself from it. But I mean, for goodness sakes, like why would there ever be any outrage? People are being like, oh, this is Chris Cizilla of CNN wrote an article that said this is a byproduct of Trumpism.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but have you ever been online or whatever and gotten a Robinhood ad?
I have not.
I get them frequently, but what a lot of their advertisements are like someone delivering packages or whatever. They check their Robinhood, they invest in stocks. It's someone packing in a warehouse or whatever, they invest in Robinhood, check their stocks, all that sort of thing. There's a scene where some girl's getting in an elevator on her Robinhood and classic Wall Street broker looking guy sort of looks over her shoulder and she hides her portfolio from him. It's this sort of reclaiming the market for the people. That's what their ad campaign is. I said it earlier, it's the democratization of finance.
Yeah.
In a way that we haven't seen it before, where these instruments are becoming available to people. But what took it to that next level with r/Wall Street bets is more so than the democratization of capital and of financial markets. It's the gamification of it. If you go into the not Wall Street, but the Robinhood interface, it feels like a game.
Yeah.
It's you made the Vegas comparison with other speculators. Robinhood feels like a gambling app.
Like a video game,
like
playing poker on your phone.
You do a buy and confetti comes down from the top of your screen.
Yeah, it's Candy Crush. It's Candy Crush for people with disposable income.
Yeah, and then you see that sort of reflected in the r/Wall Street bets, where it's so divorced from reality. They're posting things like, "Hey, we should boost it just to see if we can bankrupt this hedge fund."
Yeah. The Wall Street guys are lunatics. They it's fraternities that bully each other. It's the equivalent of to being a pledge, forcing yourself to do be tied naked to the flagpole or whatever, forcing each other to put their life savings into stock from a company that's going to go bankrupt. And yeah, it's very much tribalistic, site, it's admirable. People are saying it's very nihilistic, that this is a nihilistic drive. How do you feel about that?
I don't think it's a nihilistic drive because it's been so divorced from reality. I think ultimately when you look at this and how Robinhood functions, how Wall Street bets functions, it's not necessarily that they're oh, this is amazing, we're taking back the markets. It's they're hey, let's just see how much we can fuck things up.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this is causing larger market problems. If you look at the NASDAQ and Dow, NASDAQ dropped 300 points today, Dow 700 points today. These are beginning of COVID outbreak numbers as far as market drops go. And it's maybe not exclusively because of this, but it's coinciding with a market revolution, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that comes to the larger question, in the beginning of the pandemic, we found out that senators were doing insider trading, they were telling people to sell stocks or whatever because they knew, shit was about to hit the fan because they were briefed on classified information.
Yeah.
And that was a big scandal. That was a huge nothing burger because nothing came of it. Oh.
Hey, they both lost their election.
Okay. Oh, really? Did they both? I thought it was it?
It was both Georgia senators.
Oh. Well, that's hilarious. But, yeah, and it was just proven that they had just committed a crime and nobody cared. We moved on to the next thing. Do you think that because this is, I don't want to say poor people, because I if you're doing this, you're probably not that poor. But outsiders, I guess, people it's almost sort of to compare it in Marxist terms to make people understand, almost in a very weird way, a bourgeois revolution against the aristocracy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like the point is, it's new money, it's outsiders. Call them whatever you want.
I mean, we can say it as a joke, but it's like the whole idea that capital creates the tools of its own destruction. Robinhood
Certainly.
was capital flying too close to the sun, and guess what? There are consequences for that.
Yeah.
And these are the consequences.
But anyway, getting back to my question, do you think that because this is outsiders messing with the system and finally like exploiting it, and the exploiters are on the receiving end, do you think that that will inspire like legal consequences, and for there to be some sort of regulation of Wall Street, or do you think that laws will be put in place that just prevents this from happening again, and only like outsiders slash poor people are like penalized for trying to game the system?
I think ultimately it doesn't matter which class you're in. If you fuck with capital, you get penalized, you get prosecuted. I mean, you used the Bernie Madoff example. He was a rich person that fucked with rich people, and now he's in jail. And if he got out of jail, someone would probably murder him.
Yeah, I guess I never really paid like how much he like lost people money.
Yeah, it was. I think I want to say hundreds of billions, but it was at least tens of billions in his Ponzi scheme. It was lots of money, like probably one of the largest ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
and that brings me to like the next thing I want to talk about. Like, okay, you can buy GameStop stock, right?
Yeah. I
But
think you can right now, but they're taking BlackBerry and AMC off the market.
okay, take BlackBerry or AMC, anybody, anything, any stock, a company that's failing, like you can buy it, but that doesn't magically make, and you can do what happened to GameStop. You can do that as much as you want with any company, with AMC, anybody, and you can keep doing that. But that's not going to magically like make GameStop actually valuable. Like
Exactly. So it's since last summer. GameStop last summer had a market cap in August of about $300 million. That's a sizable company. Right now, GameStop has a market cap of 20 billion. It has not fundamentally changed its market position, anything, over the last year and a half. Biggest thing that's happened is a new console released,
yeah,
but that doesn't boost you by
not at all.
900%
Yeah,
in
no.
your market cap. And so that's the thing is we talk about how money is fake all the time. The stock market's fake. It doesn't exist. There is to some degree a reflection of the material conditions and like the material state of a company in its stock market evaluation, whether that comes out to like its dividend rates, revenue, any of that. There is a formula to derive the value of a share. GameStop is not worth $350 a share. It is not. It is simply not. That is an inflated number. It is unsustainable.
But it doesn't matter because it happened.
It doesn't matter because we collectively decided it was worth that much.
Exactly. That's what I'm freaking getting at here. And these things with the bailouts, where Ben Bernanke admitted, like, oh yeah, the money's not real. We just type numbers into a computer and we keep hitting zeros and then we hit enter. Like, that's what this all is. It's like it's fake. Like it just proves like it's not real economic like expression. Like it's this is fake. It is proof that all of this is fake. Everything about the market and all that shit is not real.
Yeah, like when you get into it, like retail, that's real. That exists. Trade, that's real. It exists. It's with tangible things. Goods and services are things that exist. But financial markets, investment, hedge funds, it's a necessary part, or like that capital is a necessary part of our system. But in its current state, it can be manipulated so easily to the point where it no longer reflects reality in any meaningful way. And we get cases like this where a couple hundreds of thousands of dudes on Reddit can decide that, hey, GameStop should like be worth a lot of money because that'd be convenient for me.
And you know what the difference is between like going out and buying a shirt and this shirt being worth $5 versus clicking the button until the line goes up?
A PhD.
No, the difference is labor.
And a PhD.
I don't know what you mean by PhD, but it...
You have to have a PhD to make the line go up by...
Okay, alright. Well, no, you don't. The Redditors just proved that. But...
I mean Bernanke.
Oh, well, no, alright.
Or Yellen, I guess.
It proves conclusively that labor is what actually generates value, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know. It depends on how you're classifying value, because if anything, this has shown that you don't need labor to create value. You can just decide to create value.
Right, but that value isn't real. It's all arbitrary. And the fact is that the GameStop bubble is going to burst. It's the same thing with the housing market.
Oh,
it
yeah,
proves
the shorts I bought are counting on it.
That shit is fake. And it will prove to be fake because you can't make it, like, you can't make something become real.
Yes,
you know,
but there's still a necessity to the capital markets and the financial markets.
That's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about if you have a shirt and I have a shirt.
Yeah.
We make the shirts, and we can determine how much the shirts are worth, and, there's labor. And the labor is what makes the shirt have its value. This, though, is all fake, and it is proven fake time and time again because we keep having these financial meltdowns where literally, like, it's all based on human feelings. Like, because that's all Wall Street speculation is how you feel that day.
I think that's all r/Wall Street speculation is. I think in different institutions, and the reason they're so shaken up about this is because they do make legitimate assessments of the valuation of companies and like risk and calculating all of that. The only problem with those is when it comes to risk, you can't calculate the risk that is r/Wall Street, which is going to haunt financial markets for the rest of its life, which I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't continue for all that long.
Well, I think this is a big victory for Marxists, for people who have that view of economic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. What's next?
Well, I think my favorite tweet in the wake of this was that GameStop, or GME as it's called in the stock exchange, is the best argument against untargeted stimulus.
True. Yes. Yeah.
And that's going to be the argument is like, see, this is what happens when you give people $2,000. They crash the stock market. They boost GameStop. They can't. People don't deserve to have money because they don't do the right things with their money. They don't make smart investments like us, the ones who short GameStop.
Yeah. The ones who are going to. Do you think the hedge fund managers will get bailed out?
I don't think the hedge funds will get bailed out, only because that would be such blatant disregard for the American people if $2,000 checks don't go out, but the administration goes out of their way to bail out hedge funds.
What if they do it as a both? What if the hedge funds are like part of a larger bailout?
And I think people might be willing to look the other way.
I that's definitely I think, yeah.
But they're going to have to actually do like a legitimate stimulus for the rest of us if they want people to not destroy them for bailing out the hedge funds during a financial crisis.
I mean, what would we do though? What would you and I do if they just gave $1 trillion to hedge fund owners and we got diddly squat? Like, what would anybody? That's the problem. Nobody would do anything.
Not vote for the next Democrat.
It's true. They would lose an election.
I will make that promise on pod. If the Biden administration and the Federal Reserve decide to bail out the hedge funds before issuing another stimulus or like another wave of CARES Act, of worker compensation, I will not vote Democrat in 2024. Whether that means third party, it's not going to mean vote Republican. There's no fucking way I'm doing that. Or not voting at all. I will not vote for a Democrat if they do that.
Okay, fair enough. You live in Vermont, so that's cheating. But Okay, but they would lose an election. Like, so what? Like, I've become fully convinced that like this doesn't matter. Like, all of the politicians are like on the same side, and that's the side of capital.
Yes and no. I
Oh
think
boy.
I said it last time, but I think the Democrats actually want to win. They're bad at it, but they actually want to. And whether that means dropping their less favorable members or trying to do the bare minimum of populism, I think they actually will try and take steps to do popular legislation and not absolutely tank their reputation by bailing out hedge funds that shorted GameStop.
Well, yeah, I guess this is all this quarterbacking is pointless. Like, we should really just be reacting to like the fact that this proves that like finance capital as we know it today is not real.
Yeah, and incredibly unstable.
It yes, very unstable. The system, economic meltdown does not equal collapse. Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know what it would take to collapse at this point because I think it's been pretty clear that economic situations, as like precarious as things might get, capital and the government will work together to like reassess and rebuild and come make a full swing back.
Yeah, and I think that's why the stock market came back before people's livelihoods, employment, literally anything else. I mean, the stock market kept going up this fall like nothing was happening while we were hitting the maximum daily deaths from coronavirus.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this, I guess, I guess the GameStop thing is just further proof that history happens twice. Once as tragedy, again as farce. And
Fair,
now we're living through the farce.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think Redditors are going to be the vanguard of the revolution. Like that's what I'm really getting at here. Like this is like proves that the economy is fake, but that's still like not enough to bring about like unfortunately economic collapses don't equal a collapse of the entire system.
Yeah,
And
well, I
it's
was
pretty
gonna
easy
say,
to bounce back.
here's the thing with the Redditors, though. They're not seeing this as like, oh, see, the market is fake and terrible, and this is why you can't have nice things. They're saying like, oh, the market is awesome, and I just won.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. And that's sort of like
There's no stepping back and being like, oh no, what have I done? Look at this, like, look at this monster I've created. They're rolling in a pile of money, going, "Oh hell yeah, this was $15 a week ago, and now I'm like $100,000 richer."
yeah, yeah. That you're right. This won't bring about a degree of consciousness. It is truly just a fun spectacle to enjoy.
Yeah.
I think we should all have a good laugh at the hedge fund manager's expense. But I think that I'm sure some people's 401ks will get lost in all this mess.
Yeah, that's the biggest concern with this. I mean, it's been a lot of smaller hedge funds, like private hedge funds, but if it continues to affect Dow, S&P 500, different indices, retirement indices, and you start to see companies like Vanguard and BlackRock get hit financially, that will be reflected in people's like pensions and 401ks, and that is bad. Old people should be able to retire. They should have the money to retire. I think that people like Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi should be able to keep their savings and retire and not bother anyone else. I'm listing people who I want to retire.
Ah, okay, very facetious.
Yeah. But no, I think that when it starts to hurt actual ordinary people, I think that's maybe not when I need to go give Reddit a stern talking to, but when some actual self-reflection needs to happen. Like,
Yeah, like why did you get rid of pensions so people have to tie their retirement savings to the market?
exactly.
That seems pretty like mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this just proves that like finance capital is Marx compared it to a vampire. Well, imagine it more like a blob, just slowly like leaking over and absorbing like everything in its wake.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking it in. And you've made this point before that like living in the age of like finance capital is somewhat like better than industrial capitalism because that also was very like ruthless and you had things like child coal miners around then, but by the same token, like it just seems like that none of these systems are like the most ethical system we could produce, and that both of them inevitably lead in like things like pensions getting done away with, and you have to have a 401k now.
Yeah.
Which is tied to the market. And by the time, that's why so many people were like voting for Trump, because my 401k is doing better. Like, as if that's not going to get eaten away at by the middlemen when they come to like collect it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to sort of leave us with this final thought that I think was very good from New York Times economist Benjamin Applebaum. He said, we should make like a special stock market that's like Bitcoin, where it's all independent. It doesn't actually, it's not tied to anything in reality, but people can just have fun with it. You can throw money at it. You can do whatever you want. Prices go up, prices go down. It's a roller coaster. It's a great time for everyone. But don't tie it to like people's actual lives. If we're gonna gamify the economy, just create a game economy.
Or just play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That will accomplish the same task.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you die, and sometimes you get like a 7 kill streak.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's something we're going to start to see a lot more of moving forward in finance capital, as we've seen like the explosion of cryptocurrency recently. And again, with Elon Musk, who's going to be a recurring character in our pod probably for a while.
Him, Alan Dershowitz, Donald Trump, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
He's in the pantheon of Tempest.
Yeah, we
characters.
should start keeping track of important characters.
Yeah, but
the Bush administration.
Yeah, all of them. But
Leon Trotsky.
He's threatened. Well, I shouldn't say threatened. He said he might convert all of Tesla holdings into Bitcoin, which caused a Bitcoin boom and further increasing prices. But I think that.
So what you're saying is I should buy Bitcoin?
I don't know at this point.
Okay, how about I think to end the show we should definitely do like Jack's quick tips and tricks for people who maybe want to get a piece of this action.
Yeah, who want to get in on the stock market.
Yeah, because if anybody deserves it, it's the listeners of our show.
Yeah. So...
Are there any... Okay, so should people buy GameStop stock right now?
No, I would not recommend buying GameStop stocks right now.
Should they sell?
Yes, if you have GameStop stock right now, you should sell it right now.
What about BlackBerry, AMC, and all those other places?
I wouldn't bother. It's going to be a fad. You could lose money as fast as you make it.
Anything they should buy?
Yes, anything blue chip. Put your money into that. It'll consistently go up, and you can retire happily in old age. Don't play the stock market. You will get burned.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sam's tips is to buy, and then buy some more, and then just ask for a bailout.
Yeah, and keep an eye out for our IPO coming out in a few years. We're doing an initial public offering. Yeah.
Buy Tempest stock.
Exactly.
Buy it while it's cheap.
We're starting cryptocurrency too, Tempest coin. It's currently worth $100,000 per Tempest coin.
And I surely think that will not change at all.
No, definitely not. Anyway, that's all for this week. Hope you were all as fascinated by this market development as we were. I think that sometimes you just have to appreciate the absurdity of it all. And seeing what went on today, you can't help but think like,
laugh
wow.
at the spectacle.
Absolutely.
This was a victory for us. When a hedge fund when a hedge fund manager loses money, you might not gain money, but you have won.
Yeah.
You have beat him at capitalism.
Absolutely. That's all for this week, folks. Thanks and good night.